Veronica Presents Part 6 of the AI Repertory Theater's production of Loreen on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga. Things are looking bad for Loreen. Real bad. The deaf-mute Bible salesman revealed himself to be a talkative crook and is now forcing Loreen to rob a gas station under gunpoint.
Back in 1987, Emily Watkins identified the remains of Mac Johnson and discovered a family secret. Mac had a brother by the name of Lonnie Smith. Lonnie Smith? L.S.? Weren't those the letters carved into the rock in Indian Cave? Chapter 23. Summer, 1987. Red Boiling Springs. A loud noise made Livy jump. She roused herself, not sure where she was or why it was so dark and wet. She rubbed her face to wake up, a chill running through her body. A dull ache in her leg caused her to remember. She had come to the cave and tripped. She squinted her eyes to see better, but all she saw was blackness. Another loud noise boomed. A storm, thunder, and lightning. Livy had no idea how long she had been out or what time it was. She wondered if Sammy was looking for her. Outside, the wind and rain howled. Her brother would be mad at her for coming this way. He had told her never to go near this cave. Now he would scream and yell like he did these days. Livy wasn't sure why Sammy had changed, but lately he seemed angrier than he had ever been. She didn't know what to make of those phone calls, or the strange man who came to the door the other day. Maybe Sammy was in some kind of trouble.
Looks like I'm in trouble myself.
She said out loud in the darkness. Livy screamed for help again, but her cries were drowned by the thunder. She started laughing because she didn't know what else to do. Maybe if she laughed, she wouldn't be so afraid. Sammy sure seemed afraid lately, but Livy wasn't sure of who or what. One afternoon while he was at work, she decided to find out why Sammy was acting so strange lately. She went through his dresser drawers, even though he had told her never to go inside his room. In the bottom drawer, she found his shirts, underwear, and there, under his socks, was a ticket stub that read, "The Last Chance Saloon, Nashville," and a wad of $20 bills. That was strange. As far as she knew, Sammy never went to Nashville, much less places like bars, and he was always complaining about never having enough money. But it looked like he had about $200 there, from what she could count. A crack of thunder startled Livy, who began weeping again. She reached down and felt around her ankle, which now was as swollen as a melon. Every time she tried to doze, the pain pushed her awake. She didn't know how much time had passed until she finally fell asleep, wondering if Sammy would ever find her.
Chapter 24. The gravel crunched under their feet as Loreen and Splat walked on the shoulder of the road. The only other sounds were the night critters, buzzing and humming in rhythm in the damp night air. An occasional car whooshed by, to which Splat warned her not to try anything funny. Not that she would. He had the gun to her back. She was trapped either way, with this lunatic or being sent back to prison.
So what's your real name?
Loreen finally asked, breaking the silence.
What I gave you. Keep moving.
You're kidding, right? What a misfortune.
He nudged the gun hard into her back, making her wince. Loreen wondered about the wife bit. Was that also a lie? She didn't know what to think of this weirdo and what his big business in Nashville was all about. She had also wondered these last few minutes why he didn't just shoot them dead. She had met women inmates who didn't blink when it came to taking a human life, strangely enough, like Carmela, who shot her husband point blank in the head while he slept. Had it coming, she had said with a sniff, like he was some bug she'd crushed. He'd been sleeping with her best friend, Lucinda. Carmela found them in bed, shot him first, and then finished it off by killing her so-called friend. Such stuff was beyond Loreen, who had stuck to robbery. She didn't know about Splat here, though. He could have killed before and could kill now. She decided to ask him why he didn't.
Don't need no dead bodies to lead the police to me. Like I said, I gotta get to Nashville.
Loreen wheeled around and faced him.
Well, seems we both got to get somewhere. I gotta get me to my mama 'fore she passes.
And that's your misfortune. Turn around.
He barked, poking the gun into her back again and nudging her along. The one-pump gas station with small country store was dimly lit and empty. Splat seemed to know what to do, breaking into one of the tanks, finding 4 empty gas cans and filling them. They trudged back to the bus, each toting 2 containers, where Tilly sat waiting. Loreen figured she could bolt now, with Splat's hands full, but where would she go? She could even clobber him over the head, but somebody would find his body, and that would lead the police to her even quicker. Best for now to do what he said. Tilly was still in the driver's seat, white and shivering.
Lordy, I thought you two would never get back. It's eerie and lonesome out here, and I thought for sure I'd get abducted by aliens or Bigfoot or something.
Splat ignored her remarks and ordered her to help them with the fuel. When they were finished, they stank of gasoline and were covered with sweat.
All right, let's get back on the road.
Splat said, pushing them with the gun back into the bus.
You, Loreen, you do the driving.
She hated men giving her orders, but she had no choice but to do as Splat said. As she cranked up the bus, she knew she had to come up with a plan to get rid of this bamboozler. She had to get home to her mama if it was the last thing she did. Which, as the bus rumbled on into the night, Loreen sadly thought it might be.
Chapter 25. Summer 1987. Red Boiling Springs. After dinner, Sammy had a second beer. He was in a foul mood. He had had enough of the grocery store, his overbearing boss, of this two-bit town, and of caring for Livy. Where was that blasted woman? She was being mighty quiet. He shouted her name, but was greeted by silence. He muttered under his breath, rose from the chair and hunted through the rooms, one by one, then out back and in the front, calling for her over and over. He even checked the well to make sure she hadn't fallen in. Where had his sister gone now? He always feared someday she would run off and never be found again. Lord knows he needed his diversions in Nashville to get away from her and his life in Red Boiling Springs. He couldn't stand the long weekends, cooped up in this place with her, and he had planned on going to Nashville tomorrow evening, as he always did.
Where you go on Saturdays?
Livy had asked Sammy one Friday.
Ain't your business. I got matters to tend to.
She got that silly smile on her face she sometimes got, then giggled.
Got you a sweetie someplace?
Sammy had almost hit her right then and there, but he didn't put store in slapping women, although he was tempted. When Livy saw his expression, she got quiet and never asked again. If she had, he would have told her that even God would understand and forgive him for wanting something more in life than this.
Livy! Livy!
He screamed again. He walked a few miles into the woods, down the trail, and saw nothing. The sky was growing darker, even though it was early evening, with the clouds turning black and angry. The air was heavy and damp, with the smell of sulfur. A storm was brewing. A few drops splashed on his face, then more, until the heavens let loose with a fury. Sammy ran back to the house, wondering what to do. He could call the police chief in Red Boiling Springs, but that was the last thing he wanted to do, given his activities in Nashville and being in cahoots with Nathan. He could even phone the police over in Lafayette, but that wouldn't work either. Maybe Livy would turn up soon. Sammy ran back inside the house, shaking the rain from his hair and shirt. A few minutes later, a knock startled him.
Finally.
He muttered, although he wondered why Livy would knock. No telling why she did the things she did. He opened the door to see Nathan. He hadn't seen him in almost 20 years, even though they had been speaking on the phone the last couple of months. Sammy eyed him with some surprise and caution. He was still a looker, with a sly smile.
What you doing here?
Sammy asked.
Thought we should talk in person.
Sammy looked at him again, closer. He had aged, wrinkles around those blue eyes, and a few extra pounds around his middle.
Not a good time. I can't find Livy.
Nathan smirked.
She always was running off, but as I recall, she always found a safe place and came back when she was ready.
Sammy raked his hand through his hair with worry. His gut had a bad feeling about this, about all of it.
Weather's bad, real bad. Don't want her out in a storm like this.
The rain dripped off Nathan's hat and coat as he stood at the front door.
You gonna let me stand out here like this, or you gonna ask me in?
Sure. Then make it fast. Like I said, it ain't a good time.
Nathan walked into the foyer and took off his hat, dripping water onto the hardwood floors.
Been a long time, ain't it, Sammy?
Sammy nodded. He walked Nathan to the parlor, where he sat on the couch, fiddling with the wet hat in his lap. Sammy didn't feel like he could sit, and paced in front of him.
You the one that come by here the other day?
Nathan nodded.
Figured I'd catch you at home. Got your crazy sister instead.
Your pa know you're in town?
Nathan looked down at the floor, then up at Sammy, who stood before him.
See, that's the beauty of it. He don't know nothing. He don't have a clue as to what's about to hit him.
The rain drummed on the roof with a fury. Sammy walked to the fireplace, then to Nathan, then to the window. He looked out at the storm, worried about his sister and the reality of what he and Nathan were about to do. The way things were now, he could go to jail. Nathan had done time. Sammy wasn't sure he could handle it if they got caught. Sammy finally sat down in the rocker across from Nathan. He clasped the arms of the chair, leaned forward, and stared Nathan straight in the face.
All right then, Nathan. You tell me again about Lonnie Smith and what he told you. It's important I know it all. Every darn last bit of it.
Chapter 26. In the early morning hours, Gertrude woke to find her pillow wet. She recognized that putrid, rancid smell. Blood. Made her gag. She struggled to turn on the bedside lamp and looked at the red-brownish stains. She was coughing up more blood than usual. Reaching for another pillow, she propped herself up, her mind racing. Her body felt strange, as if she was inside it, but not entirely. She felt dizzy and off-center, her body in a cold sweat. She thought she saw someone in the room with her mama, smiling at her, then her Aunt Lethe with her stern expression, both disappearing into a mist. Gertrude struggled in her mind about what to do, about the letter, about Loreen. If she was dying, she needed to make sure Loreen found out what really happened concerning her Grandpa Mac, that she knew what she had to do. The clock on the bedstand ticked quietly, breaking the hush of the room. Almost 4 a.m. Funny. That was the time she'd always wake to get dressed for her waitressing at the Donahoe, one of the last of the great hotels with full-length, two-story verandas. It still served 3 solid country meals a day and had been part of the town's resort boom. That was when folks used to come from all parts to drink the mineral waters and soak in them because they believed they had healing powers of some sort. Gertrude put no store in that nonsense, but she was glad it gave the town some business and gave her a job. She always had to be there for the early morning crew, the usuals, the farmers and local businessmen who wanted their biscuits and gravy and strong coffee. Loreen used to sit at a corner table, playing with her crayons or blocks.
Better watch out for that one,
Cloyd Stewart used to say, looking over at the child as he crumbled his biscuits in his hot coffee. He ran the feed and seed and had plenty of money, but always left Gertrude a lousy $1 tip.
She's gonna be a real heartbreaker.
She did, breaking her own mama's heart. Now the mind was playing funny games on Gertrude, who felt the end was near. She kept seeing visions of Cloyd and the other townsfolk whispering at the restaurant after she gave birth to Loreen, gossiping about her as if she was the town harlot, as if they didn't have their own dirty little secrets. It was no picnic giving birth, for sure, as she shoved and groaned, her mama and her Aunt Lethe by her side. Gertrude smiled to herself, remembering her angry words at the agony she felt between her legs.
Nate Johnson shall not do it to me again. By God, he shall not do it to me again.
I suspect he shan't,
her aunt had said, in that proper tone she always had. Her aunt had never blamed Gertrude, though. Only that good-for-nothing Nathan Johnson for hightailing it out of Red Boiling Springs and leaving the child without a father. The labor pains were worth it in the end when her mama laid the soft little bundle in her arms. Loreen was a beauty of a baby, a porcelain doll with big blue eyes, fair skin, and wispy golden curls. If only Nate had stuck around to see his own daughter, he would have been proud. Her aunt assured her that it was a blessing that the man had left. No account, shiftless ne'er-do-well, and that any beauty or smarts the baby had surely had come from Gertrude. She wanted to believe that, but it seemed as Loreen grew older that she had taken more after her pa.
Oh, Loreen, please get here, child,
she moaned. Outside, the morning sky was brightening. Far off, a woodpecker hammered away at a tree. Gertrude began coughing again, spitting up more blood, feeling woozy. She reached for the phone and dialed Emily. She knew she'd be up early, as she had been most of her life, tending to the laying hens, baking biscuits, or doing some other chore.
Lord have mercy, Gert,
she said.
You sound terrible.
I am Emily. I need you to get here, and right quick. I think this might be it.
With that, she hung up the phone and opened the Bible. She took out the letter and laid it across her chest and began to pray. Chapter 27. Tilly sat on the edge of the side couch, twisting a clump of hair into a knot. Loreen thought she was whispering the 23rd Psalm under her breath, over and over. But when she listened closer, Tilly was trying to sing the words to a Tim McGraw song, something about being a real bad boy but a real good man. Splat surely qualified for the bad boy part. He sat behind Loreen, gun pointed at her head. Why the hell hadn't she listened to her mama, who by now was probably wearing angel wings, that men were assholes? If she had a lick of common sense, she never would have believed his cockamamie story about being deaf and mute. Ahead, the sky was blue-black with a sprinkling of stars. The road was empty of traffic, except for an occasional car whooshing by, its headlights cutting through the night like the eyes of some wild animal. It was almost 4 a.m., and a roadside sign told her they had about 100 more miles before they crossed the Tennessee border. Memphis first, home of Elvis Presley. She wondered if he was really dead, or just wanted to get away from it all and was living like the king he was in Bora Bora, wherever the hell that was. Couldn't blame him if he was. Everybody wanted to escape at some point in their lives. Loreen wondered what Splat's gig in Nashville was all about. She decided she had nothing to lose and asked him again.
You sure are the nosy one, ain't you?
He growled.
Can't learn anything if you don't ask questions. My mama told me that. Which, by the way, that is the reason I done stole this bus, to get to my dying mama. But even then, out of the kindness of my heart, took you aboard, something I never should have done.
Your misfortune.
Yes, sirree, it is. I ain't never had luck with men, and here you come along. Some flim-flam con man kidnapping us to Nashville. What the hell's in Nashville, anyway?
Money.
Thought you said you didn't have any.
I don't. Aim to get some, though.
And how you planning to do that? Rob more gullible Bible buyers?
Nope. Gonna kill somebody.
Loreen almost slammed on the brakes. Instead, she gripped the steering wheel tighter. This could get nasty. If he was gonna off someone in Music City, USA, no telling what he'd do to them.
Oh, Lordy, you ain't gonna do that, are you, Mr. Splat?
Tilly asked.
Please say you ain't. I mean, you carry around the Word of God and all. It's a sin against God. It's one of them commandments, number 13 or something.
Splat let out a low growl that made Tilly jump from her seat. He turned and pointed the gun at Tilly.
Shut up or I'll use this gun right here.
Tilly sat down and started whimpering like a whipped stray dog.
I said you'd better shut that pie hole up or you're gonna be roadkill.
Loreen could sense Splat getting angrier and quickly diverted his attention, asking him who the intended was. In prison, she had learned a lot about human nature. People, especially cons, usually like to brag on themselves. She was sure Splat was aching to tell them all about it and just needed a little prodding. Loreen decided to play his game.
Ever off anyone before?
Like you have.
He shot back.
Nope. But met lots of gals in prison who done stuff like cut off their men's nuts with rusty butcher knives. Sure hope your kill isn't so messy.
Shut up.
He snarled.
You don't know nothing about the situation.
Would if you told me. Maybe I could lend some pointers. That is, from things I heard done.
Don't need your help or no one else's. Gonna be clean, sweet, and...
Loreen let up on the gas pedal and jumped in.
And you're gonna get paid to do it.
Big money. You have no idea.
So tell me.
Splat stood up, pointing the gun at Loreen. He glanced at Tilly, who Loreen could see in the rearview mirror. She looked like a drag queen warmed over. The night was surely taking a toll on her.
All right, since you're so damn pushy, maybe it'll shut you up. You never know what coincidences are gonna happen or why.
He was winding up, getting ready to spill the beans. Loreen watched in the mirror as his face grew twitchy.
That old saying is true about it being a small world. Who would have thunk it?
Tilly, through her whimpers and God knows why, blurted out,
Yeah, it surely is a small world. Like, my beautician's name is Barbara Jean, and one morning she done highlighted my hair because the roots were shot to hell. And well, that afternoon, I'm standing in line at the Piggly Wiggly, and the cashier's name is Barbara Jean. Of all the coincidence in the world that there would be two women with the same name that I meet, just like that, in the same day. And I reckon it's some kind of, what do you call it, cosmic sign or something.
Loreen squelched the desire to kill Tilly, probably more than Splat did. He didn't seem bothered by her interruption, though, as he was on a tear with his story. He let out a laugh that was the nastiest thing Loreen had ever heard, considering a few hours ago she thought he was mute.
Seems like God or the devil, one, is on my side, ladies. I couldn't believe my good fortune when I happened on your bus. It was like a big old sign from supernatural forces. Once my stealing gig was over at the tent revival, I was heading to Nashville for one of the biggest jobs of my life. Then my car broke down, and you angels came along. You got a deadline, Miss Loreen. So do I. 2 days from now, Nashville.
Splat's voice was oddly calm, scaring Loreen. She kept staring ahead, hoping the psycho didn't get trigger-happy. Too late. He walked over beside her and pointed the gun at her temple. Loreen winced and gulped, wondering if this was how her life would end, on a country road in Josh Montgomery's tour bus, with a fake Bible salesman gone mad and a twit of a woman who was now bawling loudly. Splat let out a low laugh and stepped back, breaking into howls. Damn, this guy was bona fide crazy. He sounded like a dog hunting its prey.
You'd never believe it if I told you, but since you asked.
He paused. Loreen reckoned for dramatic effect.
I've been hired to kill Josh Montgomery,
He said, at which Tilly stood up, screamed out,
Sweet Jesus Almighty!
and fainted.
Chapter 28. Summer, 1987. Red Boiling Springs. The storm had passed. A light rain tapped at the windows. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Sammy watched as Nathan stood up and walked over to the mantel, picking up a framed black and white photo. It was of him and Sammy when they were 12 years old. Nathan's pa, Mac, had taken it with one of those newfangled cameras one hot afternoon after they had gone fishing down at the creek. They stood there in their bare feet with silly grins, holding up their prize catches of catfish. Nathan put down the photo and touched another, one of a pretty young woman with golden curls sitting on the porch step. She wore a sunbonnet and a flower print dress that hugged her ankles.
Surprised you kept this,
Nathan said. Sammy jumped from the rocker and snatched the picture from Nathan.
She sure was pretty. Shame about how things turned out with you and Sally Richards, having to care for Livy and all.
Placing the photo back on the mantel, Sammy walked back to the rocker and glared at Nathan.
Your sister ain't back yet. Guess you'll find her way directly. Must be a real burden all these years caring for her.
Enough of you talking about my personal business, Nathan. Tell me about Lonnie.
All right then,
he said, sitting back down.
As you know, I done some time.
So I heard.
Never knew I had an Uncle Lonnie till I got to prison. Name of Lonnie Smith. Grapevine said he done some hard prison time too.
Nathan stopped and chuckled.
Guess it runs in the family. Who would have guessed that my pa had a brother who was a hardened criminal?
Why didn't your pa ever tell you he had a brother? That you had an uncle?
Seems there's a lot of skeletons in our family closet no one wanted to let out. Heard about my uncle from some of the old-timers in prison. Arrested for robbery and other charges. He was let out a few months ago, so I looked him up in Nashville after I was paroled. Old Coot was shacked up with some bimbo half his age in a boarding house when we met.
Sammy began rocking impatiently. He wanted Nathan to get on with it.
Why did he have the last name of Smith? You sure he was kin?
No mistake in the family resemblance. Although been years since I seen Mac.
Nathan said that his pa and Lonnie had been separated when their mother, a widow, couldn't afford to keep them both. She kept Mac and gave Lonnie to a family in Lafayette by the name of Smith. The two never knew about each other until Lonnie got curious about his biological parents. Lonnie was 15 and started asking questions. That's when he found Mac. A queer feeling ran through Sammy's body as Nathan stopped his story and looked at him like a cat toying with a mouse. Nathan threw him a smug look and continued, settling back into the sofa.
Trouble is, Lonnie was a bad seed now. Had been in trouble with the law, drinking and stealing from folks. After my pa and Uncle Lonnie found each other, they were like peas in a pod.
After he had finished his tale, especially what happened when both Mac and Lonnie were teenagers, Sammy stopped rocking and let out a long whistle under his breath. He leaned back in the chair, his eyebrows raised.
Why ain't Lonnie involved in all this then? He knows the truth of it. Why don't he come get the case to sell?
Nathan's eyes twitched.
See, that's the most important part of the story. Seems like Lonnie's hell-bent on getting to that case too. Least that's the scuttlebutt on the streets. Thing is, he don't know where it is either, since my pa hid it someplace else. But sure enough, Lonnie will turn up, and right soon, I reckon. That's why we gotta move fast.
Sammy fidgeted in the rocker. When Nathan had started phoning him with his plans, he was reluctant to get involved in this mess. Threats weren't his style, especially about kidnapping or hurting Loreen, but he was in a bad way for money, probably more than Nathan was. And he remembered seeing that case when Nathan had dragged him to that cave when they were kids. Phoning Mac had been tough these past few months. The calls were supposed to scare the old guy and get him to say where he had hid that case, that's all. But Mac wasn't telling. Sammy had even trailed Mac once and had been caught in the act. He thought for sure Mac was going to shoot him. But the truth was, Sammy meant no harm to come to Mac's granddaughter.
"I've been threatening him like we planned, but he ain't budged,"
Sammy said.
Always was a stubborn SOB.
"So what we gonna do?"
I done had plenty of time in prison to think about all this.
Nathan said.
We're gonna make good on our threats. We're gonna find Loreen and do like we said. Then I'll contact Mac and let him know that unless he tells us where that case is hidden...
Sammy stood up indignant.
"Now just a dad-burn minute. I know I agreed to be part of this, but I ain't gonna be part of any kidnapping, or worse. I didn't think you was gonna go through with it. I thought we was just using it as leverage."
Nathan stood up and smirked at Sammy.
Too late. You're already involved. Tomorrow, when Mac's at the sawmill and Gertrude is busy with chores, we're both going for Loreen.
With that, Nathan stood. He pulled back a curtain and looked up. The sky was clear now, except for a few stray clouds and a sliver of a moon.
Hope Livy gets home. I'll be in touch.
With that, he put on his hat and left.
Chapter 29. From what Loreen could tell, Tilly was sprawled out on the bus floor in a compromising position. Splat didn't seem to care about Tilly's almost exposed wares, or helping her. He kept shoving the gun in Loreen's back, telling her to sit still and keep driving.
But we ought to see if Tilly's okay. What if she's hurt bad?
Splat laughed.
Ain't no matter to me. Besides, who cares about that dingbat?
Well, she did. Now that was strange. Loreen didn't figure on a feeling like caring to come up about Tilly, but there it was, prodding at her like some dad-burned emotional cattle prod. Then another feeling blindsided her. Anger. Splat was not only a flim-flam man, he was one of the worst kind, posing as a Bible-thumping Christian who preached God's word but didn't give a rat's ass about loving or caring. Loreen struggled to keep her wits about her as Splat paced behind her with the gun, stepping over Tilly once or twice. Drops of rain hit the windshield. Lightning zigzagged across a black sky, followed by a low rumble of thunder. A rush of warm, moist air from an open side window hit her face. She decided it best to keep him talking, no telling what the lunatic might do next.
Bad storm a-coming. Maybe we should pull over.
No, we're gonna keep going.
The rain came suddenly and hard. Loreen turned on the wipers, struggling to see the narrow country road ahead. She had to focus, not just on driving, but on Splat.
Don't you think it's stupid to stay with us? This bus is stolen, and if the police find us, your plans are all over. Flown the coop. Gone.
I got no money and no other way to get there. It's a gamble, but one I'll take. Besides, you seem to have it figured out, back roads and all. So far, we've been okay.
But why Josh Montgomery? What's he ever done to you? Sing something that hurt your ears? Oh, that's right. I done forgot. You can't hear.
Why, ain't you a smart ass for such a pipsqueak? I could have done you and your friend in way back when I first met you, but I reckoned you could give me a ride straight to Montgomery, and that's what I needed. Can't drive this thing by myself all the way. So I need you alive and not dead. Although she really don't count, does she?
Splat walked over to Tilly and pointed the gun down at her. Loreen saw it all in the rearview mirror, her stomach sinking.
Hey!
She yelled, trying to distract him.
I'm on the wrong side of the law and done time. Why don't we work on Montgomery together? I mean, I did steal his bus and all.
At least it got his attention. Loreen gulped as he walked over to her again, standing next to her.
You?
He let out a short laugh.
I'm a solo act.
I was too, until I got you and Tilly mouth over there. But that's life, you know. Sometimes two heads are better. So how you gonna do it?
Splat laughed and scraped his stubbled chin with the muzzle of the gun.
Just get me to Nashville.
The realization hit Loreen like a bad headache. Once they got there, he wasn't going to part ways with them like he said. He was going to kill them both. She and Tilly could recognize him. They knew his plans. He wouldn't have any use for them. She had to think up something, and fast. She thought about praying, but never had before, and figured God might not consider helping someone who came to him as a last-ditch effort. Still, it was worth a try. Under her breath, she began saying the little she could remember of the Lord's Prayer. Somewhere in the middle of "Thy will be done" came the sound of metal crunching against metal, followed by the bus lurching forward. Splat landed on the dashboard, gun flying, while Loreen was shoved face first into an airbag that mushroomed and almost smothered her. She pushed herself back, struggling for breath.
Dang, that was quick, Lord,
she muttered.
But did you have to be so gosh darned dramatic about it?
Chapter 30. Summer 1987, Nashville. The room in one of those run-down Victorian homes was nothing to look at, but then neither was he. Lonnie had only been out of prison for a few months and had found this bedbug-infested dive through the prison outreach program. He glanced at himself in the mirror above the rusted sink. His reflection was not that of the dashing, reckless man he had been many years ago. He had grown a belly while in jail because of the bad food, lost some teeth in a fight with 2 other prisoners who wanted to do more to him than he cared for. And now, out on parole, he had found himself a part-time job and a girlfriend. Bimbo was more like it. She waitressed at the diner where he washed dishes. He reckoned she must be pretty hard up to be with someone like him. None of that mattered. He had one goal, one that had filled his every thought those long nights in prison. Heading back to the cave in Red Boiling Springs, the loot was his, all of it, if it was still there. No telling what Mac had done to it. Mac, his brother. In name only, if that. They were kin, but they hadn't been close, not for a long time. He had lost touch with most of his connections, but in prison he had heard tell of his nephew Nathan and how he'd followed in the family's footsteps of crime. He also had learned of Nathan's illegitimate daughter, Loreen, and how Mac doted on his granddaughter. The girl had been his trump card. He had already written letters to Mac from prison threatening her welfare. If Mac refused to tell him where the stash was, he'd make good on his promise to do her harm. Prison time did strange things to a body, and as Lonnie saw it, she was just a bargaining chip, not a flesh-and-blood relation. Then, a few weeks ago, Nathan showed up out of the blue. How he had tracked him down was beyond Lonnie, but ex-cons had their own underground lines of communication. The bastard demanded to know where the treasure was, and insisted that it was rightly his. Stupid kid. He was an amateur. Robbing a fast food joint was nothing compared to the crime he had done. It was all Lonnie could do to stop himself from shooting him and ending up back in prison. No, he had to focus. He lit a cigarette and stared out the greasy window at the street below. Night was closing in, and the street lamps poked pockets of light into the shadows and fell on a few folks on the streets below, some heading over to Printer's Alley or to the Opry at the Ryman Auditorium. He could care less about the music here. He wasn't planning on staying long. He had to get back to Red Boiling Springs before Nathan did. He knew what he had to do, even though he was taking a chance breaking his parole. He didn't care. He had waited years to get his hands on the loot. And if he came across Nathan in the process, too bad. Even if he was kin, all was fair when it came to getting rich.
Just let Nathan try to claim what's mine,
Lonnie said out loud, crushing the cigarette against the window pane, sparks of red bursting into the air.
Let him try, punk.
We hope you enjoyed part 6 of AIRT's production of Loreen on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga. For more stories, visit veronicapresents.com. You can help us grow our audience by rating and reviewing this show. Loreen on the Lam is available in print and ebook editions on Amazon.com. Thanks for listening.